Good morning, friends. Scooter coming to you live from the Granville Guitars World Headquarters here in lovely St. Pete. Today on the bench, I have this wonderful old Blackface Deluxe Reverb amp from Fender. It's quite dirty and it's quite old, and the owner has requested me to do a bunch of stuff to this thing. It's pretty well untouched internally, which is why I wanted to do this little video clip, but also it's pretty filthy on the exterior. I don't know how well this is going to translate to the video, but it's quite old and stained, and possibly has gotten, wet at some point. We're going to clean this Tolex the way I clean Tolex, which is to say I'm not going to use Armor All. Are you listening out there? All of you folks that use Armor All on vintage amplifiers and make them look all shiny and greasy, it looks terrible. Stop it. Anyway, if we spin this little guy around, we can see a lot of the dirt. There's a layer of dust in the bottom of this thing that's staggering. And the owner is, typically I do not do cleaning of that sort, but the owner has asked me, and I've accepted the responsibility to get it cleaned up for him. So I'm going to use my process for cleaning Tolex so that it's going to be cleaner, less stained, but it's not going to look all shiny and crappy, frankly, the way it would with Armor All. So yeah, that's the exterior of this thing. Let's open this bad boy up, shall we? All right, we've got the chassis out of the cabinet, and I have flipped it over, and as we can see here, it has the original filter supply capacitors. There's not really, the owner's complaining of some hum. However, there's not really any bursting on these caps to speak of. I believe there's actually some bursting on one of them. I don't remember where I saw it when I was doing my first exam. However, older capacitors of this type, I should say, really do have a shelf life, and so you want to replace them after a certain period of time. So these guys are gonna get replaced. They're original to the amp. The amp is a 66, as we'll see here in just a moment. So those are going to get replaced because he wants to use this thing. So in order to, in the interest of safety, we're going to replace those with brand new filter capacitors, and he'll be able to bang on it with no problem. And that's that portion of it right there. Largely untouched. This amp has some history to it. It was purchased in the Northeast, where the story was it had been a house amp at a bar somewhere for a number of years back in the 70s, where it lived on the stage, and people would come by to play or jam or whatever, and it would get plugged into at that point. But that was it, and so it got used a lot, and it got used hard. Then it was stored for 20 plus years, apparently. I'm zooming in right now on the reverb transformer. It's upside down, but the code is 6066, 17th week, so that's the 17th week of 66. If we come over here to the output transformer, we're going to see a 60618, so this was made the following week of 1966. Over here's the choke, 60614. This was made shortly before that. And finally, if I can get the glare off my screen here, 606621. So the power transformer was made last, but all these transformers were made within a few weeks of each other in 1966. So this is a 66 amplifier, and that's our story, and we're sticking to it. So let's real quick flip it over, and we'll have a peek at the other side. All right, this is the main reason that I wanted to show the inside of this amplifier, because it's largely unmessed with and largely original to the day it left the factory. We've got our tone caps for the normal channel, bass, mid, treble. These are the coveted blue sausages. It's good that they're here because that's a lot of the tone of this amplifier. We have our bypass caps right here. This dual cap. Again, this is an electrolytic. Probably going to replace it just as a matter of course. Over time, electrolytics start to leak. A lot of times these guys are good, but I find that the amp suffers tonally. You get some issues with, leakage other places in the amp where you don't want it, and so those end up getting replaced in a situation like this. It's real clean inside for an amp that was apparently stored in a basement in the Northeast for a lot of years. Another bypass cap here, another one here, another electro down here. All of those are going to get replaced in favor of fresh new electrolytics. If we come down here, there's the famous long-tailed pair, the phase inverter. And those values are the typical black face values with 1 megs on the outside of 470 right here. So all of this stuff is unless it's flat out bad and I get weird voltage ratings, or voltage readings rather, at various points, I'm going to leave all of this stuff intact. I'm going to fight to not replace original components unless it's absolutely necessary, unless they've just failed and there's no way around it. But electros typically go. One place where it has been slightly modded here, you'll see it's got this really unusual, someone has added a ground connection from over here at the bias supply. Let me get the camera up here where I can see better. This transformer bolt where the bias supply mounts, that nut is actually loose, and it's allowing that ground connection to move back and forth. I'm sorry about my camera work, I'm not doing a very good job here. This connection right here, which is connected to the bias supply capacitor here. That's bad because that's your bias supply ground and that needs to be solid. Well, they've run a wire here. It's not even really a wire, it looks like it's solder wick. They've run it over here to this ground connection, and then they further run it down to here and across to right here where it looks like they tried to resolder it to the chassis. It's just not something that you would typically do, and I'm not sure why it was done. This can cause a ground loop. Actually, probably not in this instance, but it's going away. I'm not going to leave it in here. It's not original to the amplifier, and it's not necessary to have it. So I'm gonna yank that. This bias supply cap will also get changed out for a modern, fresh electrolytic. But that's it. The main reason I wanted to, the other work that'll get done is the power tube or the output tube sockets. These resistors tend to be nice and cooked after this many years, so those are going to go away. This 470 here, and there's a 1.5K underneath. The swamping resistors is what they're commonly referred to. These are screen grids. Those will go away in favor of newer, fresher, better rated resistors that will put up with the abuse a little bit better in that particular position. But it's really staggeringly nice and clean inside. the whole thing, typically on a vintage amp like this one, or a vintage Fender in particular, you don't find them too very often where all of the dates agree, and agree so closely. All the potentiometers are 66, and they're all within a few weeks of each other. And the same with the transformers being, within a month or so. I've seen them years apart sometimes and still be original. This guy is really tightly dated together. We'd call this, matching numbers, if you will, I suppose. Not really, but she's nice and clean inside. He said it is making some noise. Virtually all of the tubes that were in it were bad. So we've got a brand new set of JJ tubes, brand new capacitors going into this bad boy. And hey, it's a Blackface Deluxe Reverb. Where can you go wrong? It's pretty hard to go wrong, honestly. So I'm going to do the work on this thing, and we'll check back when it's making noise. All right, progress report. I've got the preliminary work done on the inside of the chassis, and what I do from here on the inside will depend on what we get when we power it up ultimately. You can see these bypass caps have been replaced right here. And there's something here that I like to do. Everybody has their own. Everyone has their own technique for doing this. Right here where these bypass caps are, I like to trim the leads off of the old capacitor and make these little turrets, if you will, that I can then solder the new caps onto. Not sure why this isn't focusing for me. Please stop that. Anyway, right in here, you can see right there where I've made a little turret out of the old lead, and then I've soldered the new component into that turret. A couple of reasons for that. I don't like disturbing old solder joints if everything is functioning correctly. I don't like disturbing these wires or any of these original resistors if they're good and everything's functional. I like to leave that stuff alone. You run the risk of screwing something up if you disturb all that stuff. So I like to leave that original soldering in place where possible. Also, someday these will need to be replaced again. And the technician that opens this up to replace those is going to find that they're extremely easy to just desolder right here, and you have ready-made turrets ready for the next set of caps that go in there. Did the same thing here. Now you can see I had to replace one resistor, this 820 that's in parallel with this bypass cap here. Had drifted well over 2500 ohms, and that was way off spec, so I did replace that one. Moving down here, you can see this next pair of bypass caps. Those were replaced. And finally this one right here. And that's all I've done to the board as it sits. We back out just a little bit. We'll see that I've gotten rid of that questionable ground loop wire that was snaking around. And I've tightened down and cleaned underneath here and tightened these down very tight for my nice ground connections. We've also got a brand new Nichicon bias supply cap. It's my favorite to use in there. They're very dependable. They'll operate well above their rated temperature and operate very fine. I've also done the work I wanted to do with the power tube sockets. We've got new swamping resistors and new screen grid resistors here, and corrected the wiring from the two power tube sockets. You want pin 2 going to pin 2, and they were crossed. So I've corrected that. That helps with hum rejection. I've removed all of the wiring from, you can't see it from this angle, but I did remove all of the wiring, let's see if I can get around here, from the courtesy outlet and the polarity switch, and the death cap is out of there. All of that stuff is going to be bypassed when I install the new power cord down here. It's not necessary, and you know, I leave them in there for looks, but they're not going to be wired in. So that is that's the inside of the chassis for now. Like I said, once I have this thing powered up, who knows what's going to exhibit itself along the way. So some of this stuff may have to get replaced or gone further with. But for now, that's what we've got. So next step is I'm going to flip the chassis over and replace the filter supply caps. Alright, here we are on the back side of the chassis, and I've replaced the filter supply caps with these brand new JJ 20 microfarad at 500 volt. I've been having real good success with JJ caps for quite a while now. I have always loved their tubes, but the caps have been a pleasant surprise. That's it for this side of the chassis, other than the power cable and the testing of the brand new tube set. I'm about ready to load this thing up with tubes and power it up and see what happens. Also, I have to clean the cabinet yet, but plenty to keep me busy the rest of the day. Alright, we're in the home stretch. Put in all the new tubes. Discovered one bad preamp tube right out of the box. It's been known to happen. Don't hold it against any particular brand or whatever. It's just been known to happen. I got that taken care of. You'll notice here from the back side, here are my new screen grids and swamping resistors on the power tube sockets. You'll also note that the courtesy outlet is not wired in, and also the polarity switch is not wired in. I've got my neutral running straight to the power switch, or white wire, and the black wire, the death wire, is going directly to the back of the fuse holder, and then that's connected through the fuse holder to the power transformer. So those connections are all new. Death cap is gone. All that stuff is unnecessary. This little arrangement here with the strain relief is something that I do from time to time when an appropriate power cord and the appropriate grommet is too large for the hole. I'm never excited about drilling into a chassis. So I use a regular grommet that fits fairly snug and a pair of wire ties to hold it off at the hole. And then I install one of these strain reliefs right here. It allows the chassis to remain original. Whoops, lost focus there. To remain original and still gives it nice strain relief. And then here, of course, we have our ground connection, our new ground connection. And I went through all of the other stuff that I've already done up towards the front of the chassis, but she works fine. All functions are normal. Everything sounds real good. Got the cabinet cleaned up. Probably still going to do a little bit of cleaning on these knobs here. They're a little bit dirty. Probably get out the toothbrush and scrub those a bit. Other than that, after that, I'm ready to put this chassis back into the cabinet and do a final test before it gets out of here. Alright, here we are with the wrap up on this 66 Fender Deluxe Reverb amp. As you can see, it It cleaned up nicely, but it still looks like an old amplifier. Got rid of a lot of the dust and crud, but you know, it doesn't look like it's a new amp the way it would have had I used Armor all over it. It would have made it look all tarted up, and I'm not a fan of that. So how does it sound? I think it sounds fantastic. First of all, it's quite quiet. It's got a really nice reverb, and I'm not a fan of reverb, but this one's pretty nice. Stevie Ray Vaughan, I am not. I'm still trying to get that one under my fingers. Reverb works, tremolo works as well. Give it a little mid boost here off the guitar. Crank it up some, and it's going to crunch. It's one of the better sounding deluxe reverbs I've ever heard, frankly. It really has it where it counts. It would make a wonderful recording tool, or gigging tool for that matter. Normal channel also works. It's quite a bit different sounding from the other channel. If we put, say, the treble at 2.5 and the bass at a little right around the same area, and turn the volume up to about 3, it's a much different voice than. It's quite a bit darker and thicker. To get the same amount of treble, you really got to go up into the. So yeah, it's one hell of a beast. Really pleased with how it turned out. It's always a pleasure to work on one of these old amplifiers and find it to be in such amazing shape. You know, largely unscrewed around with in any way that isn't just normal wear and tear. So she's a survivor. Was played a bunch in its day and then stored for apparently 20-25 years, and now she's back. So that's about all I've got for today's little report on our good friend, the Fender Deluxe Reverb. If you have any questions about anything we do here at Granville Guitars, feel free to seek us out on the web at www.granvilleguitars.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and check out our new blog, A View from the Granville Bench, over on WordPress. That's all I know for today. This is Scooter at Granville Guitars, signing off.